I guess I'm just not the type of guy to let Richard Branson's mysterious disappearance deter me from following my beautiful dreams. I'm going to space. Something unique about me is that I've wanted to do this since I was a little boy. I'm very rich, so now I'm doing it. I just know when I fly up on that big rocket penis ship, I'm gonna go up higher than anyone's gone with money. I invited my brother to come in this first flight, but he said no. I want you to come with me.
Are you serious?
I am. I think it'd be meaningful. Have my brother there.
I wasn't even expecting him to say that he was gonna be on the first flight, which is fucking crazy. He's out of his kid mind. There's no way I'm getting on that shit.
When it's within one's means to seek out a dream, it should be criminal not to follow your fate.
Oh, so we have a new billionaire space war happening right now. How totally not egotistical at all. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of WeAreChange.org. Lots of crazy news happening in the world right now, specifically with massive unrest happening in Haiti, Cuba, South Africa. We're going to get into all of that, plus a lot more, with the latest CIA intervention news, with the latest peaceful protesting for democracy news, all of that, plus a lot more. But before we do that, the absolutely brilliant video played in the beginning of this video is from Post America. I think this creator does really great work, deserves a lot more subscribers. I don't always agree with it, but it's definitely very artistic and creative. It definitely deserves more viewers. The link to that channel is in the description below. And in related, absolutely stupid, ridiculously rich people doing whatever they want without any accountability, we have more updates about the Jeffrey Epstein saga, which of course we covered in yesterday's video. If you haven't watched it yet, it is definitely worth a watch. That link is also in the description. I had a lot more to say in that video, but I already went off on a 17-minute tangent, so I'm just going to continue the video here. As of course, we have more important details surrounding the story of the decade that many media and establishment elites want to go away, and some of the latest dealings are of course with Epstein's vast amount of real estate and properties that he had around the world. A lot of his properties are being sold to pay off the many victims that he had. The latest property is his 8,000-acre New Mexico ranch, which just hit the market for $28 million. It's also important to note here that this is a property that was not raided by the FBI for some reason, was not properly investigated, was not inspected, and you would think with thousands of children hurt here, the FBI would have an interest in investigating this further. No, what is the FBI concerned about? Well, they want you snitching on your family member if they believe a different political idea than you do, as they go on about collecting their bounties of Lego playsets as their own personal trophies of injustice. Imagine being an FBI agent and seeing a playset and prioritizing that over the 8,000-acre property of a serial convicted hurter of children in unspeakable ways for over 30 years. Let's be honest here, the Fed boy priorities aren't really that straight. Also, a lot of Jeffrey Epstein's properties are entangled in fraud. Who would have thought so? Where there's actually a deed to this New Mexico property from a Florida church that bought the property for just, quote, $200. Even the New Mexican government couldn't figure out what was going on here. They couldn't even, and haven't yet even set foot on the property themselves. Who knows what's on that property, but hey, it's for sale. And just like his victims, there were many properties scattered all over the world, including what was previously the largest residential property in all of New York City, which has been sold to a Goldman Sachs banker. The home sold for $30.6 million after a loan from Citigroup. This, of course, as many Americans are finding it difficult to get any lines of credit, as even Wells Fargo recently announced that they're closing all personal credit lines because of the current crazy, insane financial situation. You want to buy Jeffrey Epstein's property? Well, don't worry, the big banks will come your way. As we also have to acknowledge here, it was big, major banks in the United States and internationally that played a key role towards Jeffrey Epstein's larger trafficking and extortion operations. Deutsche Bank, for an example, violated many of its own rules, regulations, and protocols, even legal ones, to help Jeffrey Epstein acquire and move his exorbitant amount of funds. New York State financial regulators even fined Deutsche Bank $150 million as a penalty for their, quote, significant compliance failures, essentially allowing Jeffrey Epstein to hurt small children without even having to face financial regulations when doing this. Open up a small business in New York City, the amount of regulations, compliance, laws, rules that you have to follow up the wazoo. You're Jeffrey Epstein. The big banking institutions will, of course, allow you to do whatever they want. They'll get a small fine for it. Meanwhile, the person who did this should be in jail right now, and not only lose a small percentage of their profits. Deutsche Bank was, of course, facing more scrutiny and had an entire other court proceeding after this penalty dealing with this situation where the judge overseeing this case had her son and husband shot from a mysterious FedEx driver assassin. The alleged assassin after this incident took his own life, and the incident was not investigated any further. The son of this judge was deceased, as some people suspect foul play here. And let's be honest here, the whole Epstein saga is filled with foul play, irregularities, absolute corruption, and evil deeds committed by a man that was protected by local law enforcement, judges, prosecutors, politicians, media moguls, tech entrepreneurs, and of course all the latest celebritards that he hung out in his ever-expanding circle of influence, which according to Business Insider was a lot bigger than people even comprehend right now, as they detail a second little black book that connected the eugenicist trafficker Epstein to hundreds of new individuals in high society. Even in the making of this video, there's more people coming forward alleging to be victims of Epstein, and according to a new book by Michael Wolff, he is claiming that former U.S. President Donald Trump feared the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell because, quote, it might mire him in this entire scandal. And according to this author, Donald Trump, who previously wished Maxwell well, was also allegedly considering pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. And if this claim was true, it personally wouldn't surprise me, but there has been an absurd amount of fake news surrounding the inner workings of the Trump presidency, so it's hard to believe anything coming from these sources unless there's some actual evidence behind it. And as of right now, there's none of that. There's a lot of speculations. There's a lot of people jumping to conclusions. And we don't need to go there. We don't need to theorize what happened here, because what happened here was absolute evil that was condoned, facilitated, and carried out with your tax dollars by your government. Your government that is still connected to this Epstein saga, as the current U.S. government director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy is a man that was previously financed and worked for and bragged about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's a picture of the two. Yes, Eric Launder here in a picture from 2012 with Epstein is now head of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, dictating what is legal, moral, and ethical from his own personal decisions. And you would think the connections would be so clear here, but very few people even know this. And hey, maybe with guys in charge of science like this at the U.S. government, maybe that's why everything's absolutely freaking backwards. And before I say no, before I get into the science, before I get into some of the data that is absolutely important to talk about, I have to tell you that I can't have this discussion here because of the wide-ranging censorship that is happening on this platform of real issues, of real news that deserved to be talked about. And that's why I started LukeUncensored.com, an independent video platform where you could get exclusively videos made for you about the topics that are too hot to talk about on this platform. I was doing a lot of research within the last few days, specifically surrounding an Israeli study that I need to get into, as well as the future degradation of our society that I could only talk about in context in a private forum. The private forum is, of course, LukeUncensored.com. If you haven't checked it out yet, click on the link in the description below. And it is where I am spending more and more time on developing, growing, and creating videos. That's slowly becoming our main platform that we are focusing on. Now, in related news with absolutely insane clandestine operations that have no accountability or transparency paid for by your tax dollars, we have some latest destabilization news with the current events unfolding in Haiti, Cuba, South Africa, but specifically I wanted to focus on Haiti first, as we're finding out that some American citizens, mostly Colombians, and a Haitian doctor with Florida connections have been arrested with the assassination against the former Haitian president that was taken out. Now, there's some rumors that he was taken out because he was becoming more of a dictator. Other people believe that he was taken out because he was against a medical procedure that the ruling establishment wants people to take. But this connection, especially to Florida, to Colombia, is very telling, especially with the CIA director at the same time of this assassination being in Colombia for a, quote, delicate mission that, of course, needed to be kept secret and didn't provide any additional details to exactly what the mission was. This, as mainly Colombian mercenaries took out the Haitian president. According to some of the suspects that are in jail right now, it's also important to note here that the assassins pretended to be the American DEA and spoke English and Spanish during the operation, where, of course, they took out the Haitian president. According to some of the people arrested, they are telling authorities that the plan was to arrest the president of Haiti, not to kill him, but who knows, that could have been a cover story. This is all happening as we're getting the latest reports of Haiti being on the brink of civil war and some scuttlebutt of even the United States sending its military in to, quote, stabilize the region. That's some of the chatter that's happening right now. Will it happen? What happened here exactly? Well, we do not know. And of course, we're going to be following the story very closely. Cuba is another place where the U.S. intelligence agencies boldly and admittedly tried to overthrow the government many times. The Central Intelligence Agency had many failed assassination plots against their former ruler, Fidel Castro, which they were unsuccessful at carrying out. And now there's some massive protests, which very oddly are being promoted by big tech social media and the U.S. mainstream media. Protests that are bringing out thousands of people into the streets of Cuba, but aren't supported by a lot of the left-leaning socialistic types in government, like, of course, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the other woke brigade that have decided in the making of this video not to address the current situation unfolding in Cuba. A major U.S. State Department figure tweeted this absolutely bizarre message warning people about the rise of a potential sickness in correlation to these protests, which according to people was a veiled message trying to prevent them. The Biden administration definitely cleared up a lot of the confusion with his statements today, saying that, quote, the Cuban people are demanding their freedom from an authoritarian regime, declaring that the United States stands firmly with the protesters while warning their government to, quote, not use violence to silence the demonstrators. Now, it's also important to note here that I am definitely not a fan of the current regime in Cuba, but we have to understand whenever the United States puts their full weight and support behind a protest movement, it is usually a protest movement that works out in its greater geopolitical foreign policy initiatives and many times works towards the benefit of a corporate banking class rather than the actual people participating in these protests. This, of course, is a clear fact, since there's many protest movements that the United States either willingly ignores, doesn't prop up, many times even censors with the help of big tech, and denies the existence of. But if there's a protest that they see that they could gain from, they will, and we have to acknowledge this on the background of what many people accuse to be a horribly run, centralized, corrupt government in Cuba. I think both of these facts could be acknowledged here to get a bigger truth and a bigger understanding of what's going on here, since obviously I am not a big fan of big government and centralization of force with a big government nanny state that, in my opinion, is absolutely doing more harm than good. Lots of insanity happening in the world, and the only real way to make sense of it is to try to see it from an honest, real perspective, which I hope I was able to provide to you. If you think I did some sort of good job at that, share this video with your friends and family members. If you think I did a horrible job at that, let me know why in the comment section below. I always appreciate your constructive criticism. Feel free to also reach out to me on Twitter under the username @LukeWeAreChange. I have another video coming your way here on LukeUncensored.com. So much to say, so much news is happening right now, and I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to uncover it for you. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.